What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the next episode of the Justice Revolution. How goes it, y'all?
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
How goes it? I am your host, James the Patriot. I have with me my ever so faithful co-hosts, Erica and Justice. Say hello, ladies.
Hey.
Hey, folks.
All right, you guys. So Joseph C., yeah, this is going to be freaking good. That's all I can tell you. So this is a follow-up episode from our show we did last week. If you guys remember, we talked about everyone's favorite subject, and that is the subject of taxes. By the way, did you guys know that the colonials threw tea in a harbor over a 2% tax? Did you know that? So there's so much going on, right? Because I mean, what did we have this week? We had the clown show of a presidential debate, if you want to even call it that. You got this crazy woman who wants to impose a 75% capital gains tax on unrealized capital gains. Does that make sense to anyone? No. It's you guys, this is straight up communism.
How does that work exactly?
It doesn't. It doesn't. There's not one society that has survived longer than a year that has been like. And please, fact checkers, don't fact check me because I haven't got a clue. I'm guessing, but look back in society. The USSR gone.
I think 17 years was the last I heard. That was the last time that. Yeah.
You got all of the turmoil in Venezuela. You got Nazi Germany gone. So any one of these societies that tried to impose and implement these type of radical strategies or whatever you want to call them, they haven't survived because it's not sustainable. It lasts for so long, and after that, after the well is dry, it's done.
Well, thankfully, James, we're a republic.
Hallelujah. Well,
right? This is what's beautiful about America because
America, we're not a republic, we're a democracy.
We're guaranteed a Republican form of government if you read your constitution.
No, our democracy's at stake, Erica. You can't elect this crazy guy. Our democracy's at stake.
I know, it's frustrating to listen to.
Even Trump is using that. It drives me bonkers, guys. That's why I'm like, okay, it's time for the people. We have to come back into our standing as the bosses.
Yeah,
because we are. I mean, even Trump, we're like, yeah, Trump's gonna lie. No, we, the people, are the bosses, and we're the ones who are going to be instructing our public servants on what their jobs are.
Yeah. Joseph C., yes, we will be fielding polite but pointed questions from the chat. So as long as they don't poke us directly, we will be happy to.
And I'm hoping to cover everything because the situation that I had with my friend is just absolutely perfect to share with you guys on how this actually works, right?
Okay, so
I'm going to star every question. So if James or Erica or we don't answer it right away, just know at the end of the show, we'll go through all the questions, okay?
Cool. Kevin, welcome. He says, I finally get to sit in on a live show. Welcome.
Yeah, Kevin. Hey,
welcome.
I know. So just let me start off real quick. Today is September the 13th in the year of our Lord, 2024. That's crazy. Yeah. September the 15th is an amazing day. That's the day I turned 43. So there you go. I am also one of the most humble people you will ever meet. So my humbleness exudes through my skin. I love the smile on Erica's face right now. She's like, you.
So, James, my mom, rest her soul, was born on the 14th. So Virgos are good people.
September's a fast. I mean, there's a lot of people born in September. It's the 9th month of the year. You guys just go ahead and make the distinction with that. Apparently, people
New Year's Eve celebrations.
Apparently, January is a very depressing month, and so a lot of babies are born in September. Anyway, let me just say a couple things. For those of you who catch our show on the podcast, hey, Leslie Liberty, happy birthday to you on the 17th, the Constitution Day. Yes.
Good number.
September 17th, 1787. Fantastic. So for those of you who typically catch our show on a podcast or some type of a streaming service where you're listening to the show, by all means, listen to it. But I'm just going to tell you, you're going to be doing a lot of screen sharing and going over a lot of documentation. I would suggest after listening to the show, go back and watch the show, especially if you want to know how to do it, number one, and number two, how to do it right. In this space, when I say this space, I mean in the taxes space, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of supposed gurus out there that say, hey, this is what you got to do, this is what you've not got to do, blah, 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 blah. We've all heard it, right? Those of us in the Patriot movement, we've all heard it. There are the individuals that have websites out there that claim this is the way to do it, and they give you all the information. Unfortunately, some of those individuals are being, I believe, wrongfully prosecuted, but nonetheless, they're still prosecuted and they're sitting in jail. We don't want to do that. We want to follow the law as the law is written. And I think when we go, actually, I don't think, I know when we go over what Erica has helped her friend with, your mind is going to go, oh my gosh, it's all right there, but because there's so much wording, we just our eyes glaze over and skim over. Would you agree, Erica?
Well, and I think what the problem is with most of us who are truth seekers is that we look for the people who already know the truth or think they know the truth, and we listen to them instead of actually reading the stuff ourselves.
Yes.
Like, I mean, that's with the Constitution, with our statutes, with our Bibles, and we just look for people who are talking about it and feeding us, like spoon feeding us, instead of actually looking at it ourselves. And so I actually looked this stuff myself, and it, for those of you who weren't on part one, 98% of us, 99% of us aren't really taxpayers anyway. I'm just going to throw that out there. If you read what the law says,
as it's written,
it's not us. And so most people don't know that, and they don't know the history of how we got duped into it. And we went over that a little bit on the last one. But having said that, for those of us who don't understand that we're not taxpayers and who got themselves involved in the W-4s with their employers. And for me, when I was working as a nurse, like, I dreaded tax season because my spirit grates. Like, whenever I had to go do the taxes, I was like, why do these guys get so much of my money? It just didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to my spirit. So I knew that it was wrong. I knew that it was the common law, that it was violating a common law of some sort to be doing it this way.
Because in your soul, you're like, this is theft.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it's wrong.
Right. Everybody in their spirit knows it's wrong. It's something you do begrudgingly. But why is it that they take so much money and then you have to go through this weirdo process to then get a pittance of it back?
Yeah.
And then you're like, I get tax money back, right? Like, you're so excited for those of us who get it back. But and that's what this process is for, that I know for sure. I mean, because the guy that I helped, he was always already getting money back from his taxes in a this much amount form. And so when we started studying it, I was like, all right, you can get so much more back. This is going to be really great. So and it worked in a fairly short period of time.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about that process. That's what this show is today. Justice, I'm sorry, you just do it.
That's okay.
So we're going to talk about that, right? We're going to talk about the basic understanding of why what Erica said, 99% of everyday hardworking Americans are not taxpayers and are not required to file a return. However, the caveat is if you work for an employer who doesn't understand the law like we do, they're going to take your money out of your check anyway. And
they're not actually withholding agents, and they don't understand that either, but they're getting bullied as well.
They're getting bullied and threatened. Yeah.
We've said this before, right? It all goes back because they say, well, our attorneys say this, our attorneys say that. Well, guys, again, the Bar Association has no love for we the people.
No.
They don't care about us. They don't care about our rights. They're not trying to protect us and our rights. They're trying to protect their employer, the association, all of it. So when you understand what the law actually says as it's written, if you can get somebody with a brain in their head to understand that, great. I'm fortunate. My current employer, I sent them the documentation that said, hey, I don't want you withholding anything because you're not required to. They actually listened. Now, my previous employer didn't. So this is what we wanted to do with this show with part 1 and part 2 is we say, hey, those of you who are in that boat, which is a lot of us, hey, I don't want my employer withholding anything. So you try and do what you can. And they say, hey, you're either going to choose an exemption or a withholding amount, or we're going to withhold a maximum amount. It's like, whoa, I'm not doing that. So let's say you go exempt, which most people do, when they're required to file some type of a withholding form, which is a W-4. What do you do then? Because your employer is still withholding Social Security. They're still withholding some other minor amounts, and they're sending it to the IRS. How do you get that money back? This is what we're going to talk about. So let's start first and foremost. Erica, do you think maybe we should start on the capital versus income? Would that make the most sense?
I mean, honestly, if you just want to pull up the document that I sent,
Okay.
let me kind of explain.
All right. You go ahead. I'm going to share that screen right now.
Because I want to explain every detail of this so that everybody understands, because everyone's situation is going to be a little bit different. The situation that I was helping my friend with was this. It was about 3 years ago when I started learning all this stuff that he was asking me, what do you know about this? And I was like, I don't know enough yet, but just don't file yet until I get it and I'll help you. And so this is 3 years worth of tax returns that we're talking about here. Okay. That's the first thing. And a fun little fact, not once did he get a letter or any kind of communication from the IRS saying, hey, you haven't filed your taxes. I thought that was pretty interesting. I guess when they owe you, maybe maybe they're not as inclined to be like, hey, you need to file your taxes.
They want the statute of limitations to run out so you can't ask for the money.
Right.
So they can't ask for the money. Yeah.
I helped him with the last 3 years. And I just want to say this up front, that I wished that the only thing I wish I would have done differently in helping him was to send this letter separately with each year's filings. What I did was I sent all 3 filings
in one envelope.
In one envelope with this one letter. But the IRS is so fragmented. I have found this out. The right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. And I have evidence to prove that in a number of ways here with the stuff that he got back. But that's the one thing. Send, if you have multiple years to be sending, send each of them separately in filing. So yeah, it's going to cost you an extra $5 per filing or mailing or whatever. But my reasoning when I was telling him, I was like, well, you don't want them to think you're trying to hide anything. So just go ahead and send them all together with this letter. But I think what they do once it gets there is that for each of the years, they send them to different groups. They send, and so this letter didn't get sent with each of the groups. And so then we had an issue with a couple of I'll explain that later.
Okay.
But
so this letter is 12 pages. So for those of you who are following along, this is a 12-page letter. And a lot of the information on here, so Erica and Justice and I got on pre-show, and I said, Erica, this is fantastic. This must have taken you forever. And she's like, oh, not really. Most of it I just copied and pasted from a website.
Yes. I formatted it because I wanted it to be in a format where they could rebut point by point according to the numbers. But pretty much every bit of the information that I got was from a website called Capital versus Income. That's capital, CAPITAL, VS income.com. I had done a ton of research, you guys, for the last couple of years, right? Like I'd done all the Daves, right? Dave Champion, Dave Merlin, David Williams, all the gurus. I got as much information as I could from all of these people. I went to the Freedom Law School with Paymon.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all the same people that you guys have been to too. And Pete Hendrickson with The Last Horizon, and and as I'm reading through all these, they all have really great ways to show you that you're exempt as far as you're not a taxpayer. But there was never any answer for those of us who had gotten involved with the W-4 situation and have had the withholding and want to get the money back. Because once they have it, they've already spent it, first of all.
Oh gosh.
And then second of all, the frivolous filings, the fees, the penalties, all the things that come back with all of these techniques that you learn from the gurus, it's almost impossible to find someone that you can actually trust that this is the right way. I mean, I had some people saying, do a 1040 NR, do this 4862 form, and all of these things, right? And nothing felt right to my spirit. But when I heard about this guy, he was like, you know what? There's all of these people who are trying to tell you to do this and do this, and you're changing your status and going at it like this and saying you're non-resident. Throw that all in the garbage. You're already in the boat here, so just go along with what the law says. And it's not really law, because it's
yeah. I mean, so here, people understand this, right? Title 26, which is the IRS code, it's non-positive law. So, and the reason why is because it's not supposed to be applied to we the people, but it is.
It's not applied to we the people, but you have to claim it for yourself from the beginning. And that's something that is in a different episode. This is just for the people who want to get their money back as much as possible, because you've already somehow, it's not a true consent because you didn't voluntarily and knowingly go into this, but the only way that they're going to give your money back is if you go through their process. That's what I found. I actually even called Paymon at Freedom Law School. Talked to one of his workers, Blake. He's really, really sweet. He's a homeschool kid that is this his first job, and he's been studying this stuff like crazy. And he was very knowledgeable. But I said, hey, here's what I'm thinking about doing. What do you know about this? And he said, we don't really offer anything to anybody who's trying to get their money back. We just try to help you become exempt from being a taxpayer. So, and that was what I found with everyone.
They're all the same. And if I could just jump in real quick here, they're all the same. I was feeling the same frustrations that Erica was. I'm like, guys, this is fantastic as far as moving forward. But the IRS has got, for me personally, they have close to $50,000 of my money. And it's been sitting there for the last 2 years. And I'm like, I want it back and I can't get it back. And it's been frustrating to me. So I want to share a couple of quick things, and then let's jump back into Erica. So I thought this was funny. Nissa must have gone to In-N-Out today.
Oh, someone sent that to me because we talk about taxes. Yeah.
So next time you guys are at In-N-Out Burger, and I apologize, In-N-Out Burger, if this isn't supposed to be there, well, it's on your cups. So taxation is theft. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So
I have not verified it, but she lives in California, so I don't know.
Okay. And then for those of you who are wondering, okay, Erica, this is all fine and dandy, but does this really work? Let me just show you. It's right here. Let me see if I can turn this. There we go.
Yeah, this is my friend. He had already cashed the other checks, but I asked him if he could send some proof that it worked. And ultimately, okay, let me just tell you, I'll spoil you a little bit here before we get to the good stuff on how it happened. The check on the top, if you would have filled out the forms the way that the IRS tells you to on their forms, he would have only gotten, I think, $2,100.
Wow.
For that check. But look at the highlight too, underneath of that last line where it says Kansas tax refund, blah, 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 the interest. Not only did they send the full amount of the tax refund the way that I had helped them do it, but they also sent an additional, $370 something in interest.
Yeah, it's okay. Here, I'm going to blow this up a little bit for those of you who are looking. It's kind of, geez, That's not working because it's a JPEG, but it says right here, $370.
Yeah, and the same with the other one. The other one was like it was only going to be like
$338.
Yeah, and like $2,100 in tax return if you'd have filled it out the way that, because I did them both with him. I helped him. I was like, okay, this is what it would look like if you follow their instructions, but they're wrong. And so, and then they also got interest back on that one too. He had already cashed the other one, so I didn't have them all to provide. But yes, so
let me go back and I'm going to pull up that letter.
Yeah, pull up the letter. We'll just go by. Let's just go through it. Like, do you think?
Yeah,
it'll go pretty quickly.
Let's go through it. So, and I'm going to read this. I'm not going to read all of it, but I'm going to read this. And guys, we'll find a way to share this. I don't know, Jess. We can put this. Is our website still up? I don't know.
I assume so. I haven't been on in a while.
I know, guys. Again, we apologize. You all know the situation. The summertime has been crazy. So,
and everybody needs a break. There's nothing wrong with taking a break.
So here's the thing. I have my suspicions as to why a lot of these gurus who have these information sites out there don't have these processes, because when you look at what's going on, the IRS or whoever else, they go and they get some type of a federal judge to issue an injunction prohibiting them from doing it, because they don't want the masses to wake up. That's just the reality. Because if you guys know, if every single American who is not a taxpayer realized they're not a taxpayer and went through the process to get their money back, the government would be bankrupt.
And there's not
it already is
about this 87,000 agents for the IRS. First of all, it doesn't even cover the people who are retiring. I just want to throw that out there too. Okay. They're going to be armed. I don't know. That's a whole other conversation. I don't know what they're doing with the arms. I can't prove it, so I don't want to talk about that. But this is there is no capacity whatsoever for these tax courts, which are not judicial courts. They're administrative tribunal courts, which is something totally different that we the people are not supposed to be in. Okay, like this is huge. This is a big mind-blowing concept once you start understanding fundamental law and due process of law, and that we the people, we're not under the statutes. The IRS, like we discussed in our last video, this is just an internal revenue code, which is internal to the federal government.
Yep.
Public Tax Salary Act of 1939, which has nothing to do with us. And somehow it got applied to us because they saw how much money was coming in, and the greedy goons got crazy and we got ignorant. And that was just a recipe for everybody getting in a bad mood in January when they have to start doing their taxes.
So
all that to say.
All right. So the letter, I think it's important to note, because this is kind of where my mind went when I first was reading this too. I said, "Hey, Erica, did you just help your friend send this letter?" And you were like, "No, we had to pretend to be a taxpayer." So I know
that's the worst part of it. You guys, because we already know that we're not taxpayers, but that's new knowledge, right? So this is like post facto that we're doing whatever we have to get it back, because we haven't entered into the world of everything is better now, and all the judges are following the rules now, and all the agencies know what they're doing now. We haven't entered that yet. No. So this is my best attempt at helping my friend to recover the 3 years worth of taxes that I told him I would help him with. Okay. So,
but that James has always said it, and this is really important, where like people have come into the chat talking about, natural law and this law, and but we're beating them and playing their game. They can't argue with their own rules. Exactly.
And everything that's in this letter is from their own document. Right. They can't refute it, and that's why it was successful. Right. So all that to say, I started out helping him write this letter by saying that it's my desire that I understand the law as it's written, because you're not trying to be a tax evader. They'll come after you in their tax courts for that kind of stuff. They're saying it's for this reason. I've dedicated studying the law to regarding the process to ensure that I'm fulfilling the lawful requirements. Included are my findings that I've amassed in order to properly and lawfully submit my tax returns for the last few years. Please let me know if I'm in error in any of these conclusions with a response point by point. That's why I put the numbers. And if I am, according to the authority of the law presented to me, because it's all about by what authority. We should always be asking that question with everything, always. By what authority are you asking me for that?
Right.
I reserve my right to amend per your lawfully prescribed instructions. I did complete them according to my best understanding of the law outlined below, as I knew that I must in order to sign under penalty of perjury. Okay. Perfect. The reason why that first part is important is because you're establishing that you're not evading. You're saying, hey, if I'm wrong, please correct me.
Right.
This is all contract law, you guys. This is all, please provide me with the evidence so that I can blah, blah, blah. So then we go into listing all the things. Okay.
All right. So and what I love about this letter is, you guys, as we go through this, Erica has listed this. She's got bullet points 1, 2, 3, 4, and she just keeps going down 5. So, and I'm going a little fast here, but so number 1, the income tax is determined in Subtitle A, Chapter 1. Okay. And again, this is what is written under IRS Code Title 26.
And the reason that that's important to establish is because later on they confuse Subtitle A with Subtitle C. Okay, go ahead.
It's amazing. The Social Security tax and withholding are determined in Subtitle C, like what Erica just said, Chapters 21 and 24 respectively. The definitions for wages are found in Subtitle C. But wait a minute, I thought you just said the income tax was determined in Subtitle A.
Keep going.
Oh, it just gets good.
Yeah.
Each chapter that uses wages has its own definition that only applies to the chapter in which it is defined. Subtitle C is organized as follows.
And this is why I want to make sure that you guys are following this, because this is how ridiculous these codes are. And I have read through them, and it is that scary and crazy, because in these statutes and in these codes, as long as they give a definition for it at some point in the section, they can justify whatever they say in plain language in the statutes. For instance, I could say in these code situations, my house is blue. And then in the definition sections, I could put blue, according to this chapter, refers to yellow, green, red, and pink.
Mm-hmm.
All mixed together.
Mm-hmm. But it's not blue. Right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And that's what they do in these stinking things. They will use words where you read it and you go, oh, okay, well, all of us are supposed to pay taxes. But then you look up where all the people in the United States are supposed to pay taxes. But then you look up the definition for United States, and it says the District of Columbia and the territories. Mm-hmm. So, okay, that's not you if you live in Indiana.
If you live in one of the several states.
Or if you live in Utah or any of the several states, it's only for people who are residing in the District of Columbia, right? That's how they do it. They can, and then people read it at face value and they think, oh, this is for me. Well, it's not for you. Wake up.
So let me ask a question. Who wrote all of this stuff? Who wrote this garbage?
The people collecting the taxes.
The legislative branches. This is the committees, right? They come together.
Let me back you guys up a little bit. Who wrote this stuff? Because yes, it may have come through the legislature. Yes,
IRS
it may have come through the people. Yes, it may have come through the IRS, but they're not the ones who wrote this stuff.
The Rothschilds.
Ooh, hold on. Got it. Got it.
The scam artists themselves, right?
The liar.
Word magic artists.
They are the best at doing this stuff.
Yep.
They are fantastic at misconstruing the everyday terminology that you and I use in our general conversations, and it is a perfect way to confuse and scam we the people.
It is, absolutely. And if you look at the progression of how the acts change throughout the language gets more and more obscure, and the definitions change more and more and more, to where you have to be like some sort of, like my friend, I call her Nancy Drew. She'll dig and she'll go to the very back of the section and look up the definition and come back. But the general person will not, or I shouldn't say person, the general man and woman reading this stuff will just look at this at face value and be like, oh, okay, well, and that's what they're counting on, because that's how they're taking all of our money. Okay, keep going.
So number 4, I find is again fascinating, because all Erica did for her friend is she just laid this out, right? Okay, basically what this letter says is, help me understand, because I am not understanding, and according to what my understanding is, where I am signing this document under penalty of perjury, this is my understanding of it. So if I'm wrong, that's why I love that opening paragraph. If I'm wrong, show me where I'm wrong, and please do it point for point. Real quick, did they do that at all?
No, they didn't. They just sent the checks to him.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. So number 4, chapter 21 is where Social Security and other federal insurance is determined. And chapter 24 is where withholding is determined. Each chapter has its own definition of wages, and there's even a definition of wages in chapter 23. Chapter 23 isn't important to this discussion other than to show that each chapter uses wages, has its very own definition of wages that applies to the chapter. For instance, in chapter 21, the definition of wages reads, and guys, this is just copied and pasted straight from their stuff. For the purposes of this chapter, so that's chapter 21, the term wages means all remuneration for employment, including the cash value of all remuneration, including benefits paid, blah, 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 blah. Number 5, for the purposes of this chapter, for those of you who are watching, you gotta just watch Erica's facial expressions, because they're fantastic. I mean, they're awesome. So when I read that, she gave this, type of a thing. So for those of you listening, rolling your eyes, giving you the best monster face. For the purposes of this chapter is a caveat that cannot be ignored. And you guys, you must point this out. For the purposes of this chapter, this definition of wages only applies in chapter 21 to calculate Social Security tax, and cannot be used in chapter 1 to calculate gross income or income tax. Find 3101A, and you will see that the Social Security tax is a simple calculation of 6.2% of wages. All right. I'm not going to bore you. I shouldn't say bore you. I'm not going to go through all of this, because this is a 12-page document and we've got a lot to get through. But you can see how Erica has done a fantastic job with this, right? She's laying this out. She says here, you can see that wages are explicitly defined and then used by name to calculate a tax. This is word salad.
Right. And then in some of the chapters, they use a different definition of the wages. That's very, very important, because if it was the same in every chapter, they would just say that it's the same in every chapter. But this is part of the trickery that they do, because on the form, the 1040 that you fill out, they're asking you for one definition of the wages, but then in telling you to give a different definition of the wages, which results in them ending up taking way too much tax out of you and robbing you even more.
So, right, because again, for the common layman or laywoman, wages, to me, if you were to come up to me on the street and say, hey, what would you define as wages? Well, that's the money that I'm paid for my job. That is what they want you to put there.
They even say it on the form, and that it goes into that in the later part of this letter. I think it's important to read through all of it so that everybody understands. I think it won't take much time, really.
Then let's do it. So again, we already read through this. Let's go here so for chapter 24, under the definitions, you guys, for those of you following along, you can see that this term wages means something different than the first one we just did. Erica points out the definition of wages in Chapter 24 is used to determine the amount of withholding tax and is considered an employment tax, which is separate from the income tax. Although the withholding tax is used as a credit to one's income tax liability in Subtitle A, Section 31, it is a tax separate from the income tax. Gross income is not calculated in Chapters 21, 23, or 24, and these definitions of wages from Subtitle C cannot be used in Subtitle A to calculate gross income. Oh my gosh.
Right, because they ask for gross income on line 1 of your 1040, and it is not what they're asking for. Okay, this gets good. Go ahead.
Okay, I love this. All right. So, item number 6, a W-2 is called an information return, and it displays useful information.
And that's what you get from your employer, right? They mail it to you. I just wanted to
send a copy of it to the IRS. Yes. The requirements for an information return, like a W-2, are defined in 26 U.S.C. 6051. Every statutory reference to a required piece of information, like wages, comes from Subtitle C. None of this information is used in Subtitle A to calculate gross income or an income tax liability. A W-2 is a summary of a taxpayer's compliance with Subtitle C and is evidence of an employment tax liability. Guys, this is golden, but it is useless in calculating gross income in Subtitle A.
So why do you guys put the instruction to put your line 1 from your W-2 on your line 1 for your 1040? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to ruin it. We get to that part here.
I know this is just good, right? So again, here's the requirements that, again, this is what I love. And this is what we have to do for these people, because you got to remember the men and women that work at the IRS are just everyday men and women. They don't know the law. They don't know it
either.
All they know
here in a second with the people that I helped my friend talk to on the phone.
All they know is what they have been told to do by their supervisor. They don't know what the law requires them to do. So we have to spell it out. So this is what I love that Erica's done. This next section here is, I'm assuming it's 26 U.S.C. 6051. Is that what this is?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is where it says the requirement. I'm not going to read through this, you guys, because again, this is out there. You guys can read this. Erica says all of the statutes shown above come from Subtitle C and are not used in Subtitle A. All right, so item number 7. Subtitle A, Chapter 1 is where income tax is calculated. Only the terms and definitions found in Chapter 1 can be used to calculate income tax. Subtitle A is shown below, followed by a breakdown of Chapter 1, which is our primary focus for income taxes, okay? 26, Subtitle A, income taxes. Chapter 1, normal taxes and surtaxes. Erica says Chapter 1 is subdivided into subchapters as shown below, and most people are only concerned with subchapters A and B. So subchapter A is the determination of a tax liability. Subchapter B, computation of taxable income, okay? She says in subchapter A, section 1 tells us that a tax is imposed on taxable income. Is anybody confused yet?
So I just want to draw your attention back to our first video, that taxable income among taxable persons, we are not them. However, for those of us who are just trying to get money back, this is the concession that you have to make when you're talking, because then they start talking about, this is why the boxes become important when you're clicking married, single, head of household, all the things that you're just like, your spirit knows, right? Like, yeah. What? I don't know. Am I head of household? Am I jointly filing married? Right? It doesn't feel right? This is why, because it doesn't apply to you, but
it's trickery by confusion.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So tax imposed, married individuals filing joint returns, and surviving spouses. Okay. Again, you guys, this is all out there. You can read it. Number 8, Erica says in subchapter B, section 63 states that taxable income is gross income minus deductions. All right. So we know that. Number 9, in subchapter B, gross income is defined in section 61A as shown below. The caveat, and I love that she highlighted this for these people, the caveat, except as otherwise provided in this subtitle, cannot be ignored.
These tricky goons, man.
It reminds the reader that terms and definitions outside of Subtitle A cannot be used here. The definitions of wages used in Subtitle C for employment taxes and found on a W-2 are inapplicable to the calculation of income taxes in Subtitle A.
So we're continuing to build this case that what you put on line 1 has nothing to do with the full amount that they have listed in your box 1 on your W-2 as gross income. Yes. That's not the same number. That's what we built up to this point. Now we're going into the section where they're talking about what gross income actually is, according to the Subtitle A and what you put on line 1. Go ahead.
All right. So gross income defined, general definition, except as otherwise provided in the subtitle, which is what she just mentioned. And again, Erica just put her hand over her eyes. Gross income means all income from whatever source derived, including but not limited to the following. Number 1, compensation for services, including fees, commissions, fringe benefits, and similar items. I'm not going to read all the other stuff because it's there. You guys can see it.
And it might be specific to your situation because some of you are talking about, the capital gains and different dividends and stuff like that. But that is also included in this line. So if you're going to follow the letter of the law, then you need to look at according to what. But this is just for like the everyday, I have a regular job sort of a person. And
it also goes back to the episode prior to this where when you take an employed position, you're exchanging your God-given time, which is the most valuable commodity you have, to give them your skill in exchange for money. It is not income. It's an exchange.
We're getting there. This is going to state it very clearly, Justice. Thank you.
Okay, so Erica goes on. She says, gross income is calculated using compensation for services.
And if you go back up, you see number 1 where it says compensation for services, including fees, commissions, fringe benefits. I just wanted to draw that attention. So go ahead.
Yes. And you say, does the description of compensation for services include wages? If Congress meant to include wages, it would read, again, I love this, compensation for services, including wages, salaries, fees, commissions, fringe benefits, and similar items. As it is written, a wage is not similar to a fringe benefit. A wage is earned, while a fringe benefit is a type of gratuity, and thus wages cannot be read into the description when it is not there. In fact, the Supreme Court said that expanding the meaning of taxing statutes by using words that are not in the statute is prohibited. By the way, there's a number of different cases, but the one she's referring to there, I believe, is United States versus Wigglesworth. Let's see. I can't see what year that says. Federal case. It doesn't give me the years, but that's okay. So she goes on. Wages cannot be implied by the words fees, commissions, fringe benefits, and similar items, and cannot be included by interpretation. The court also said that if Congress uses language in one part of an act but not in another part, that it does so with intent. You guys, this is important. There's a reason why it states in one place but not the other.
And the word includes is very specific. When it says it includes this, and this, it excludes everything else that's not mentioned.
Yes, right.
Hey, so some of you guys have heard, those of you who've listened to some of our shows in the past, there are some doctrines that are associated with this. One of those is a doctrine known as ejusdem generis. You've heard that? It's a Latin term. Poor Justice. She's like, oh my gosh, my head's starting to hurt. So ejusdem generis means of like kind. Okay. There's also another Latin term called nocitur a sociis. Have you heard of that one, Erica? Nocitur a sociis?
Not that I know of, but
yeah, it's words of a company. Basically means words that are listed together mean essentially the same thing. So what it comes down to at the end of the day is if it's not specifically written it is excluded by intent, by what she says.
Right.
And
Most
every
all of these
liar
documents-
in a court of law will bring that up in the middle of a case that
Nope. Guys, I am fighting with a stupid liar right now over a situation that I'm dealing with. And this liar, again, you got to hand it to these guys, right? They know what they know.
Oh, yeah.
And they know what they've been doing for years, and they've been getting away with it for years. Well, when somebody actually stands up and says, hold on a second, dude. Did you know that subject matter jurisdiction has two prongs? It's not just one, there's two. It's not just the statutory or common law cause of action. There must be a competent fact witness who can testify to these matters. You always forget that part. And guys, this is part of our problem too, is we don't stand up with that. I just want to stop here for a second. Diesel, for we the people, there is no nexus attached to the people. You're absolutely right.
I wanted to highlight that again, because this is not a code for the people.
No.
This is the way that they did the nexus. Remember, we talked about it in our last video, was that it's through the social security number in the contract that we filled out with the W-4, and we didn't know that we were doing it. So it's fraudulent anyway. But unless you're knowledgeable enough to go back and say, hey, I am one of the people, and this is not applicable to me, then it's going to come down on you. And this is, again, like, this is just a way of using what they already have written to show that your private wages that you earn in exchange for your labor are not considered part of what they're calling gross income.
Exactly.
So let's just get back to that. That is exactly, like, it's the best that we can do right now. Because if we want to get our money back, this is how we have to go.
This is how you have to do it. So I want to stop here for a second and touch on two quick things. So Ryan Dolan posted this a while ago. He said Alphonse said his appeal could take up to 12 months. Okay, those of you know Alphonse, he's fighting the property tax situation. His appeal can take up to 12 months. Well, what do we know about Alphonse's case? Here's what I can tell you. He filed the complaint. He swore under penalty of perjury that everything was true. A stupid liar filed a response. There was nothing from any of the named defendants. There was no competent fact witness that filed anything into the case. And did Alphonse raise any objections to that? No, and I'm not, again, please, I'm not faulting Alphonse. I'm saying we all do this. I did this at first too. Failure to timely raise an objection waives that right. Okay? If you don't object the minute that stupid liar opens their mouth, you waive that right. So when Alphonse failed to object to the fact that the stupid liar did not support their documentation with any competent fact witness and the filing is a legal nullity, the judge assumed that he was okay with it and moved right along. This is the problem that attorneys do. This is why this is so convoluted, and this is why I'm fighting the fight that I am in now. I have some stupid attorney who has zero knowledge of the situation that I'm presenting. And he's claiming to going before the court saying, well, this doesn't apply, this doesn't apply, this doesn't apply. So what do? I don't even give it the time of day. I file an objection. Petitioner's notice of objection to counsel's filing. Counsel has no personal knowledge of the situation. Furthermore, counsel is barred from testifying unless they're willing to do so under the penalty of perjury, and not one of them is willing to do that. So what does that mean? It means they have failed to give the court the jurisdiction it needs to rule in their favor. But guess what? Courts do it all the time anyway. I got a friend of mine I'm helping down in Salt Lake County. He's got some stupid municipality that's trying to force their codes on him, and some lame brain judge just granted a motion for summary judgment from the other party. There is no competent fact witness testimony on the record. So we're going to file a collateral suit. We're going to attack it collaterally. Anyway, I divest. I want to get back to this. I just want you guys to know, if you don't object to these things timely, there's nothing that the court can do. The courts want to help us in a lot of cases. But if we don't object timely, they're not going to come say, hey, you need to do this. You need to do this. You just need to know going into it, when you go into these things as a pro se litigant or as a pro per litigant, whatever you want to call yourself, it doesn't matter. When you go into these things and you're saying, I know this is what happened because I lived it, who's there to rebut it? Okay, let's move on. Let me get back to this document here. Okay, so they do so with intent. Thus, when Congress includes wages in Subtitle C, but omits wages in Subtitle A, we must presume that Congress did so or acts intentionally in the disparate inclusion and exclusion of wages. Wages are not to be used in Subtitle A when calculating income taxes.
And they should, because, I mean, they shouldn't use it in calculating income taxes because it's private property.
That's
You're
why.
exchanging your labor for a certain amount of money that you agreed upon with the person who hired you. I hate even using employer because that has its own definition in the Internal Revenue Code too. It has to do with public office. So it's all not meaning to apply to us, but
well, they trick you into doing it willingly. So in their twisted minds, they're saying you volunteering.
Right.
So I love this that again, Erica pointed this out, because again, this is where things get so convoluted, right? You have Title 26, which is quote unquote the law. Then you have Title 26, the Code of Federal Regulations. Well, regulations are not technically law because they weren't passed by Congress, but they were written by somebody. So she says here, the implementing regulation 26 CFR 1.61-1 provides more guidance on Section 61A, and it reads, general definition. Gross income means all income from whatever source derived, unless, whoops, let me get down to the right spot here. Unless, why is that doing there? That's weird. Unless excluded by law.
I swear you need a degree to be able to read some of this stuff. But
yeah. Okay. So she says compensation for services is a specific item of income, and if there exists another statute that provides specific treatment for compensation for services, then that statute must be used to calculate gross income. The reader should not be surprised to learn that 26 USC 83 provides specific treatment of compensation for services, and that most taxpayers have never heard of it because the IRS pretends that it does not exist. Oh, I love it. The statute reads, in general, if in connection with the performance of services, property is transferred to any person other than the person for whom such services are performed, the excess of the fair market value of such property, the first time, determined with regard to any restriction other than the restriction by which its terms will never lapse, at the first time the rights of the person having the beneficial interest in such property are transferred. Oh my gosh, Kate, this is making my head hurt.
I know, this is why they do it, right? It's to confound everybody and make you go, what did I just read?
Yeah. And this is why I love Erica. Erica puts this in plain language for not only for our benefit, but also for the benefit of these men and women that work at the IRS that they just don't know.
Now remember, all of this information, mostly, I mean, I did put some information in here myself, but it's coming from capitalversusincome.com.
Yeah.
This is all information that someone else put together. This is brilliant. It's true. It's like just that in section 83, I believe that's Dave Merland who talks about the Section 83, that it's just like it confounds the people, right? No one will get back to him on that one, but this is why.
This is the what is it? Take from Caesar or whatever it is. Dave Merland's website. Dave Merland is a fantastic individual. I struggled when I asked him. I said, "Okay, Dave, how do I put this in a way that I can use and apply it?" And he never got back to me. And it's not because I did anything. It's probably because he doesn't have the time to do so. But again, Dave is an interesting guy. But he makes the argument, and so all that Erica did was like, "Hey, wait a minute. Section 83 states that our property and our labor is excluded. So here's what she says. There is no other statute that instructs a taxpayer what shall be included in the gross income other than Section 83. This is it. While Subtitle C explains that exactly 6.2% of wages is taxed for Social Security, Subtitle A does not say how much wages is taxed for purposes of the income tax or how much wages must be reported as gross income. This is because there is no use of wages in Subtitle A. Gross income is determined by compensation for services, and Section 83 explains exactly how much compensation must be reported as gross income, which would be, Erica, what?
Fees, commissions, fringe benefits, and the like.
There it is right here, down here in the bottom. Okay?
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Yep. So, bullet point number 10. It is generally agreed that income is a gain.
Although there is no actual definition of income in the Internal Revenue Code.
Okay, go ahead. I've asked people, I said, hey, what's your definition of income? And they look at me like, the money I make? Okay. There is no income. She says, but in order to determine a gain, the baseline against which the gain is measured must be established. There is no cost basis when dealing with a person's labor because there is no cost for one's own labor. When dealing with labor, the baseline against which the gain is measured is called a fair market value. Any payments that exceed the fair market value for the labor must be reported as gross income. According to the Supreme Court, fair market value is determined using the willing buyer and the willing seller test. I mean, that's just simple.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a paraphrase, just for those of you who are listening or watching, fair market value is nothing more than what a willing seller can get from someone who's willing to buy at that price.
And that's established in the contract that you make with the person who hires you when they say, I'm hiring you for $20 an hour or $50 an hour or whatever your agreed upon exchange is for that zero-sum transaction.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this doesn't matter how you're paid at your employer. It doesn't matter if you're paid by the hour. Doesn't matter if you're paid salary, and it doesn't matter if you're paid commission or bonuses or anything of that. If that is spelled out in your employment agreement, that right there is fair market value.
Mm-hmm.
Simple. So some people will come back, well, wait a minute. What if it's a percentage of this? It doesn't matter. The agreed upon percentage is fair market value. The income tax code says you are only liable for the income tax and anything in excess of that. So I just want to ask you, Erica, Justice, are you ever paid anything in excess of what your employer agrees to pay you?
No.
Never.
Well, yeah. Okay. So the way that I helped my friend, and we'll get to this point, was that because this was brand new, like we were pioneering this.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure that we were being completely lawful. So he did get a bonus. So that is what I included as his income on line 1 when we filled out his form.
Okay, good. Because we're going to get to that, right? We're actually going to, as soon as we're done with this document, I'm going to pull up a blank 1040 and we're going to fill it out as if we were filling it out like what you just said. Okay. All right. So where are we? So when both the employer and the employee willingly agree upon a salary, that figure becomes the fair market value for the labor. According to Section 83, any payments that are in excess of the fair market value must be reported as gross income. What kind of payments qualify? Well, let's just read the law and it tells you. Section 61A says compensation for services, including fees, commissions, fringe benefits, and similar items.
So yeah, if that wasn't listed in your original agreement for employment, anything above that, like if you get a Christmas bonus that you didn't know was coming because you did really, really well on such and such or whatever, that would be included.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Erica. What if, because I'm in the sales business, I sell software. My employment contract, I have a salary and I'm paid commissions, and that's spelled out. So since it's spelled out, that would omit commissions, correct?
Honestly, I don't want to give you advice on that because
I'm not asking for advice. I'm asking for your opinion.
right, or opinion really, because I don't know. Because we're not really taxpayers. That's what I'm telling you.
Does anybody know?
Confounding about the whole thing is
James, wouldn't that
applies to us at all anyway? So,
wouldn't that be defined also in your contract, James? Like you've got
that's
contract part.
So
I would say whatever is outlined in your contract when you agree.
That's the fair market value.
That's your fair market value. If your fees, if your commissions, if your bonuses are included in your agreement to exchange your labor for it, I wouldn't say that is included in that. I would say, but none of this is meant for us anyway. So that's where I'm like, that's where I go, what? I don't know. I just erred on the side of caution when helping my friend because this was a completely pioneered thing. I haven't seen anyone else do this before and be successful, and he was successful. So I'm just sharing what we did and what we could prove.
I just wanted to ask the question because I know people are going, oh gosh, this is mind blowing. So what about this? Because you can get the questions, right?
Or what if they're saying, I don't get any bonuses at all?
Yeah.
I don't have any commissions or fringe benefits or anything similar to that. Like, what do I do? So then it would be zero. But then the IRS is going to look at it and go, this is a frivolous filing.
That's a frivolous return. That's what they're going to say.
Right. And then you'll get charged $5,000.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I know all the answers to everyone's specific situations, especially for people who have more complicated things like, dividends and capital gains and all of that stuff.
Profit sharing. Yeah.
I want to keep this as simple as possible. Yeah. And we're going to show you guys just how simple this is, where you're not sending in W-2s, you're not sending in 1099s, you're not sending in all that stuff. All you're sending in is the 1040 and this letter. That's it.
Although I did include the W-2, and that explains why I had a complication with one of the 6, the 3 federal, the 3 state. He only had one issue with one state, and it's because I sent in the W-2s. I encouraged him to send in the W-2s with his filings because they ask for it, right? They say it. He told me I've never sent in a W-2 before, which is crazy because they always ask for it, right?
Yeah. So, but again, what did we just read? That Subtitle A, does Subtitle A require W-2s? No.
Right.
Subchapter C does, or Subtitle C does. Right. So,
and it's all self-reporting, and it's all under penalty of perjury. So it's all up to you on what you decide to report.
That's why they say it's voluntary. So, okay, again, we're talking about, for those of you that are in the situation that are, my employer has withheld this money from me unlawfully, by the way. They're not allowed to do it, but they do it anyway. And they're basically saying, well, what are you going to do about it? Okay, so this is the Brent Johnson thing. Well, what are you going to do about it? Okay, This is what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to call your BS, and I'm going to say, Subtitle A doesn't require W-2. So so I'm just thinking for me, if I am doing this, what I am going to do, and by the way, full disclosure, those of you know, I filed some returns to try and get my money back, and I did them some of the other ways that I thought, because I saw some people that were successful with it, I thought that was the way to do it. I still haven't gotten a dime back. So I'm going to go and amend those returns. You can amend your return anytime you want. I'm going to amend those returns. I'm going to file it the way that she says. I'm going to file a regular 1040. I'm not going to show a 0 because just like she said, you show zeros, they're going to be like, this is a frivolous return. Okay, I'll give you $500. How about that? My $500 was a fee or a fringe benefit or a bonus. Okay, because what Erica says here, she says the answer is hiding in plain sight. Any payment that is over and above the agreed upon salary or wage must be reported as gross income, such as bonuses, housing allowances, food stipends, etc. The fair market value establishes the baseline to measure a gain in one's labor. And again, this this diagram here, you can find this on capitalversusincome.com. It's right there.
Yep.
So all she did was copied and paste, and she put in United States Supreme Court rulings in here. So you got the fair market value, which is what we talked about, what you were agreed upon with your employer when you were hired, anything in excess of that. Now, the question.
And remember, we're always asking them, rebut this if it's not right, please.
Yes.
And here's the number that it's under that you can rebut it. Okay, go ahead.
That's what I love about your opening paragraph. If I'm wrong in any of this, please tell me and show me where. And
it removes you from trying to assert yourself in a way. It puts the onus back onto them to say, oh, no, you're not right on this one. Here's how you do it.
So I want to make this very clear for those of you who are going, oh my gosh, my head is starting to hurt. So what am I supposed to put on my return? I'm not going to tell you to make up a number. You didn't hear that. I'm not going to tell you to make up a number, but you're going to have to decide what's going to make the most sense for you. All I'm going to tell you is this. If you try to send in a 1040 with a 0, and listen, I've been there, I've done it. They're going to send something back to you, says this is a frivolous return, the blah, 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 blah. You're going to go back and forth with letters and stuff. It's going on 3 years now for me. I've not received any money back from them. I've received nothing. I get crickets. Okay. That's what they're going to do. They're just going to hope you go away.
But James, they did say you don't owe them any money, right?
They did come back and say, we have determined you don't owe us anything and we don't owe you anything. I was like, well, you're partially right. I don't owe you anything, but you owe me something. So I'm just going to let's go back to the baseline. Mm-hmm. Okay. You can go ahead and keep whatever number you feel comfortable giving them. Is that $500? Is it $1,000? Is it $5,000? You decide what number makes the most sense for you. And you're going to see here what Erica did for her friend. It was ingenious the way she did it because it was just below the standard deductions. I love it. We're going to get to that here in a second. Okay.
And it was all true. It was all true.
Yeah.
We listed the amount of money that he got for his Christmas bonus, and that was his income.
Yeah.
So
because he wasn't expecting that, right? It wasn't part of his contract.
Right. It was all just based on the year's worth of business, how it happened. That wasn't part of the contract.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even though he's not a taxpayer in the first place, I always want to keep drilling on that.
Yes, we're not.
We're just trying to follow the law according to what we've gotten ourselves into to be able to get back.
So what I can say in my case, I have in my contract, I have it. It's explicitly written out how I'm compensated. There were a handful of times where I was the salesperson of the month and my boss gave me a $300 gift card. So I can go through it and go, wait a minute. Okay, so that's in excess of what I was agreed to compensation wise. So I can add up that $300 and I can put that as my income.
There you go.
That's just.
And I want to make sure we have time too to get to all of the back and forths that I helped my friend with, because you'll want to see what's coming for you too.
Okay, so let's get through the rest of this, and then let's talk about how you fill out that 1040, and then we'll get to that. So, excuse me. So Erica says in chapter 1, a person is not compensated for services in wages or salaries. A person is compensated in a form of property that is transferred in connection with performance of services. Taxpayers must follow the rules for reporting any of this property as gross income. So again, the methodology for determining gross income is as follows. I received compensation for services in the form of a wage or salary. The wage was paid in money. Money is property. Property is included in gross income according to Section 83 of the tax code. The excess of the fair market value must be included in gross income. It must be restated. There is no other statute in Chapter 1 that expresses or explains precisely how much compensation must be included. Since wages is not defined in Chapter 1 and is not used by name in any calculation, a wage paid in money must be interpreted as property that is transferred in connection with the performance of services. A wage only becomes gross income if it can satisfy the requirements of Section 83, which isn't likely. This is because the income tax is imposed primarily on income, investments, and not capital, employments. and much of the capital is excluded from the tax by using confusing language. Okay, do we want to go through the rest, or does that give us a pretty good? I mean, we'll put this document out there. So for those of you who are asking for it or want to see that, we'll put this document out there.
So go back up there, James, where I included the notice. I said, please take notice of the following, because this is a notice to them also. They're asking for wages on the 1040 instead of compensation for services. So when they put wages on the 1040, the taxpayer is misdirected to put the full amount of their wages that's on their W-2 and report it as wages. This is the whole kit and caboodle of it. If this is all you listen to in the entire video, do not do what they tell you to do. I mean, I'm not giving you advice because you're the king's
not legal advice. We're not giving you advice. Please don't construe this as such.
So they're asking you, and they actually even show it on the form on the next page. I'm showing you that they actually included it as of last year. They started saying to please put the amount. Yeah, see, real close in there. Total amount from forms W-2 in box 1. They ask you to put that in box 1, but that is not right. So scroll back up there, will you? And I said, you're misleading the people. This is a notice to you. Please stop misleading the people, to tell them that they need to put their subtitle C total in the subtitle A line, because not only is it's basically telling them to take out more taxes than what they should.
Than what's
and then you get a much smaller check.
Yep.
So if the 1040 is properly requested by putting the subtitle A chapter 1, it would resolve the meaning of the compensation for services. So that's what we're saying, only putting the above and beyond from what you already agreed upon.
Yes.
So the IRS sends the taxpayer to the wrong statutes. In subtitle C is what
all the freaking time. All the freaking time. Yeah. So this is what she put on here. This is the 1040 for the year 2023, and it's a different line. It says total amount from forms W-2 box 1. You're going to notice I'm going to pull up here a 1040 from tax year 2021.
Yeah, if you fill it out the way they tell you to on their own form, you're screwing yourself.
Yeah, it's different. Okay. So she says, in conclusion, the IRS asks taxpayers to violate the law by using terms and definitions outside Subtitle A to calculate gross income, and then to sign the 1040 under penalty of perjury and swear that their illegal calculation is true and correct. There are 3 reasons that taxpayers are legally prohibited from using wages from a W-2 to calculate gross income. Number 1, except as otherwise provided in the subtitle. We've already been over this. Number 2, fees, commissions, fringe benefits, and similar items are not wages. And number 3, wages apply for the purposes of this chapter, which means only the chapter in which they are defined, and wages are not defined in chapter 1. Okay? So she closes out this letter. I've compiled this. You've got a notary here, right?
Yeah.
Signing under the penalty form. Okay. So let me close that one and let me bring up.
And I said, please, if what I'm sending you is not true, tell me. But if it is true, then please send me the full amount of the tax return that I'm asking for. 5 out of the 6 actually came back. They only got smart with 1, and it was this year. And another Hoosier from the great state of Indiana said, I'm also having problems with this year. And they just got crazy. They're 5 months behind in answering their protest letters. I'll just tell you that, which is a good sign, because people are waking up and they're saying, this is not right. I want you to adjust this. So yeah, that was one letter that he got back that said, we took the liberty of adjusting because you put the wrong number from.
And we're going to, I'm going to pull up the rebuttal letter that she sent to that. Because again, do you guys know that the law says that if they're going to change your return, they're required to sign it under penalty of perjury? They never do.
They never do, and they don't even
You're on-
sign.
you're on
They
mute,
don't even
Justice.
sign a single name on any of the letters that they send you. It's just like a general from the Department of or whatever.
Yeah, there very rarely is a name. What were you going to say, Justice?
So they took it upon themselves to put in a number they preferred.
Yeah, and they adjusted everything. Boy, oh,
Wowee.
I helped. He told me that, and I said, "Hang on, just a second." And so I wrote up this
Here, hold
protest
on here.
letter that's going to make your head spin.
Wowee.
Oh, this is fantastic. Okay, so I have up on the screen, you guys, this is a 1040 from the year 2021. You will notice, I'm going to blow this up just a little bit so you guys can see it a little better. Let me enlarge my screen. Okay. You will notice right here on line 1, what does it say there for everyone to see, Erica? What does it say?
Wages, salaries, tips, etc. Attach forms W-2.
But we just learned in the law that you're not required to do that. So what are we supposed to put here on line number 1? Well, remember, you're liable for gross income. This is going to be in anything in excess of your wages, salaries, tips, etc. that you weren't accounting for. So in my case, where I was paid some gift cards because I was the salesperson of the month, I might put that number there. So I would say, okay, you know what? It was about $1,500. There you go.
But gifts aren't taxable.
I know. Again, if I put a 0 here, it's going to get flagged. You're going to have problems. Believe me, I'm already there. Okay. So now as we're going down through this return, let me make this a little bigger so I can see if I can get it all on one screen. There we go. Okay. So again, you guys up here, the only thing you need to be concerned with on the filing status, again, this is me. I'm not talking about you. If I'm doing this, I'm only putting this box right here.
All of those check boxes at the top, they put you into certain brackets.
Yep.
So that you're not really.
Yeah. And it all has to do with the standard deduction amounts and stuff like that. Just listen.
So are you saying don't check any of them?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying if this is me and I'm filling out this return, I'm checking this box and this box only.
Gotcha.
If this is me. You can put all your other information in here. I don't give a rat's rear end about the presidential election. Okay? Don't worry about any of this other stuff. That's, again, just me.
Shouldn't even be on there.
It shouldn't. Okay?
What business is that?
Exactly. So I put in $1,500 was my gross income, right? Now we're going on down the lines here. Capital gains, I didn't have any of that. Didn't have any of this. Standard deduction or itemized deduction. Well, I'm going to take the standard deduction. What's the standard deduction for an individual? I don't know. What does it say? Oh, it's right over here. Standard deduction for single, I don't care about the rest, $12,550. Okay, $12,550. There you go.
Doesn't this all just feel so weird and wrong?
It does.
Of course.
It just does.
None of it makes any sense and doesn't connect with my spirit at all.
Yeah.
I
Charitable
say it all
contributions,
the
blah,
time.
blah, 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 blah. Okay. Qualified business, blah, blah, blah. I don't have that. Add lines 12A and 12B, and you put that here. Okay, so $12,550. Again, I'm just going through here if I'm filling this out myself. Taxable income. So how do we do that? Well, subtract line 14 from line 11. Well, let's see. Or add lines 12, C, and 13. Okay, so that's still going to be here, $12,550. Whoops.
It's lawfare.
Yeah. Okay, so your total income right here is $1,500. That's line 9. Adjustments to income from Schedule 1. Oh, wait a minute. There's that Schedule 1 again, right? Nope, we don't have that. Subtract line 10 from line 9. This is your adjusted gross income. Still $1,500. Oh, whoops. That goes right here. Number 11, 1,500. Okay, that's what we got. And then you go through here, your taxable income, subtract line 14, which is here, from line 11. Wait, so $12,550, not minus $1,500. It's going to be $1,500 minus $12,550. Well, that's going to give me a negative number, isn't it?
Yes.
Right, which is why. Okay, this is when I need to start talking about the nuts and the bolts of everything.
Okay.
So he used Free Tax USA.
Okay.
It's like an H&R Block or something like that, right?
Yep.
Where it walks you through and it asks you a bunch of questions and it inputs the numbers from what you answer in the questions into this 1040. So you're not actually filling out your 1040s or your IT40s or whatever your state calls your state form.
Mm-hmm.
So it was $14 to file the return. And it ended up coming up with this negative number, right? And it said, oh, and it flags it. It turns it red. It's like, oh, this is wrong.
It can't be a negative
right.
number.
This can't be right. We're not going to be able to just e-file this for you. We have to mail it. Perfect. Fine. Whatever. So we printed them out and we mailed them and we attached the letter with these forms.
Okay.
And that was the caveat, right? Like, I don't know.
I'm just going to tell you, yes. If this
you can also include all of your other standard deductions, whatever other deductions you have there's all kinds of videos out there about clever ways to do deductions. Justice just sent me one today where I don't know if you posted that to the group in affidavits. You should do that. It's another just a clever little way to show
creative guy, yeah.
Creative workarounds for deductions and stuff like that. But this is the game we're having to play for this right now.
So what if I was to go up here and say, okay, I feel that number was a little higher. Maybe it's 13,500. Okay. So now I go here and I change this to 13,500. Go here to change this to 13,500. And now I go here. Okay. So now let's try it this way. I'm just thinking out loud. Get it back here. So let's go and take 13,500 minus 12,550. My taxable income is now $950. Okay. So I'm going to show you how this is a way how you can still do this and keep it in the positive and potentially get your money back in less than 2 weeks. I'm just saying. Okay. So now I have made my taxable income is $950. Okay, so let's scroll down the screen here. So my tax is $950 right here. Now we're going to go here, federal income tax withheld. This is where you're going to go here and go. So from Forms W-2, they withheld. So I'm going to put one of mine was like something like this.
Yeah.
It was like that much.
Yeah.
Okay? $25,000 was withheld.
Robbery.
So, exactly. So what you can do from here is you go through. So your total payments, $950. Okay, so I paid, total payments was 28,000. I'm getting this right. 28,000. What did I say it was? 870. 25,870. So I paid 25,870. Take that number, subtract the 950. You guys can have $950. I will be happy to let you have $950. So let's go here and go clear that. 25,870 minus 950. That means you guys owe me $24,920. Okay. Whoops, it won't let me. Anyway, that's weird. I wonder why I did that. Okay, does that make sense? So,
no.
So, okay.
You guys, this is a game. What I'm saying is this is a game that we're all just figuring out.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, this entire process is voluntary anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they code it as a gift. When you look it up, they really do. They code it as a gift. Thank you, IRS.
Okay.
So if they want to audit you, like, you have the right to refuse an audit because of the Fifth Amendment. You have the right to not incriminate yourself in any way whatsoever.
Yep.
That's the beauty of this whole thing, right? Is because just remember fundamental law, you guys. Why was government created? For the preservation of our liberties, for our individual rights, for our private property, for our interests of of happiness. This is the antithesis. Like all of that. This is the exact opposite. This is oppression and theft. And this is not at all in alignment with why our government exists at all.
Yeah.
So we still have, if we know the law and we stand up for our individual rights, we can say, you know, you're not allowed to take anything away from me without due process of law. And in order to do that, you have to have an injury, an affidavit that states that I have injured someone, right? There's a whole bunch of components that go along with this.
Yes.
This is where it's all going to start crumbling.
So,
the Supreme Court has already recognized this.
I'm still in pain from my mortgage situation. They tried to steal my freaking house without any due process of anything.
Yeah. So again, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to fill this out. I'm going to sign it because it says right here, under penalties of perjury, I declare that I have examined this return, and to the best of my knowledge and belief, they are true, correct, and complete.
And that's why I encouraged my friend to include this letter, because the one of the 6 checks that went through, or the reason I don't think they got the attached letter is what I am saying is happening. So we sent that along with the protest letter, which I also included to you.
Yep.
You were going to read that, weren't you?
Yeah, I'll bring it up because we're running low on time. We're going on an hour and a half. I mean, this has been a fantastic, I hope you guys, this has been fantastic. And I want to get to some of the questions. So let me bring up, I'm going to stop sharing. Let me bring up that letter, the protest letter.
Anyway, finish that thought, Erica. You included the letter because...
Well, because I was anticipating that some Yahoo was going to say, oh, I know better. These people they put the wrong number, because I told him to include the W-2s this time. I was like, you're not trying to hide anything.
Right.
You are sending this information to them along with the law and asking them, if I'm wrong, please correct me. We can't get away with lazy servants anymore who don't know the law. Okay.
Yeah.
And this isn't even meant for us, but we're using what is already written to be able to do this. But yeah, look at the letter of protest, because this one guy, I don't know if it was a guy or a girl, only one, and that was the year for 2023 for state. Sent a letter that said, we had to make some corrections because you didn't put the right number. And so we went ahead and just updated everything. So I said, we protest. Okay. This is the 3rd notice I've sent to your department regarding my tax returns. The previous 2, despite my demand for a rebuttal in the event that the cited law used to calculate my refund was incorrect, have remained unanswered and unrebutted. So per the previous notices, all 3 tax returns I sent simultaneously should have been returned in full. And then I put in bold, I have received 2021, 2022 without issue from your department, as well as the federal tax returns, and no rebuttal was given for cited law to calculate the return. But for some unknown reason, an unnamed person with the Indiana Department of Revenue has taken the liberty to correct the error in determining the income subtotal on line 1 for the 2023 tax return, and then adjusted, blah, blah. That was all from the specifics of the letter. It is my name, my friends, signed under penalty of perjury to self-tax my tax liability. No man or woman from the Indiana Department of Revenue signed his or her name to the correction form under the penalty of perjury in order to lawfully amend my tax return. Further, the attached notice, I sent it again, was sent with the original, and it goes into great detail regarding the errant claim of this unnamed person, proving that the amount listed on the original return was not an error. No point-by-point no point-by-point rebuttal was sent from your department within the given time frame. Noted that to refute. This is all contract law. Remember, to refute the information I explained in detail that I used to calculate the tax liability. The values that I used are well within the code, and it is with error that the correction letter was presumed an error to mine. So after reviewing everything, this man or woman responding to this letter still feels the need to correct the error made in determining the income subtotal, it is my wish and demand, because we are one of the people, that this man or woman identify themselves, rebut the point-by-point numbers with the correct law, and sign under penalty of perjury that all is correct and true, and return to me by this date. Right. Okay, whatever. So another thing I wanted to make a point of too is that with the other tax returns, two of them were held up, and I just had my friend send this just today. I was like, did you get any more mail about it? They had sent this whole packet of information back with an attached note that said that we needed to send more information with blah, 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 blah. 3 different things were checked. But I'll tell you what, there's this check the status of my refund on the website, on the IRS. If you go into that.
Yeah.
They also sent a letter saying that he needed to verify his identity. Okay. This is the new thing, because they must be thinking, okay, this stupid monkey's been paying his taxes the right way for all these years. Now, all of a sudden he's not. Maybe he got hacked, right?
Yeah.
So no, he just made good friends. So they sent him this form. It had a specific number on it, and it said, if you don't fill out this identity information thing, then we're not going to send you the income. So I looked it up, and I was like, they're asking for a bunch of really sensitive information. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with you doing this. Like, I don't know. Do what you want. But so at the same time, okay, he came over, and at the same time, there's also on the form in this really teeny tiny spot, it says, if you can't validate your identity online, call this number. So we called this number, and the person that we talked to eventually, because it was a very long hold, and in that time he was able to do all of the verifying online that he needed to. He had to take a selfie. He had to take a picture of his driver's license. He had to do a couple of other things, right? And he got that all submitted, but it said something like this was not sufficient to go through with the whatever. So thankfully we were also online on phone call with this number, this teeny tiny little line. And the woman that answered that, she goes, oh, I'm showing that the year 23 and the year 21 are both showing hold up based on identity of verification. Can you just tell me, what was the amount of your income and what was the amount of the expected return? And we gave those 2 pieces of information. She's like, oh, okay, I got it taken care of for you. And click, click, click. She took care of it. And the checks were in the mail in a couple of days.
Oh, that's great. So
they just put all these little barriers, right?
Yeah.
You need to do this first. You need to do this first. You need to call this number. You need to, file this protest letter. You need to do this. But, eventually all that has been done. And like I said, there's a 5-month hold on the protest letter, but that's going to go through too. So 5 of the 6 of his checks came through with this.
So let's talk about real quick, because the next question people are going to ask, okay, Erica, this is all fine and dandy, but James has been stating since the beginning of the show, he's been going on this fight for 2.5, 3 years now. How long did it take from the time that you filed these before you started receiving the first checks? Not you, your friend.
Right. It was, I think, it was the deadline. He filed it on the 15th of April.
Okay.
And then I think he got the first checks, I want to say, I don't know, July?
Okay.
June or July?
Yeah. That's pretty freaking fast, you guys.
And interesting too, of note, normally checks come with an attached perforated section that shows you particulars of the return information.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. It was just
that's interesting.
There was no letter of return for rebuttal. There was nothing. There was no other communication, just then one tiny little check that was for the full amount of what was requested.
So here's what we've got some questions. I want to get to the questions. But again, I want to give you, if this is you, I shouldn't say this, if this is me, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to send 3 pieces of information with my return. I'm going to send the 1040 that we were just filling out, the way I filled it out. I'm going to send the rebuttal letter. not the rebuttal letter, but the letter that's
the information letter.
Yeah, the information that explains what wages are, what they're not. Okay, again, it's the word salad that they want to confuse us with. I'm going to send that, and then I'm going to send the W-2s that I received from my employers. So one of the questions that I think is interesting is this one right here from Follow the Sky Clock. James stated in the beginning this would be for folks who also claimed exemption and have not filed. Employers are only taking out Social Security. So that is my situation exactly. I claimed exempt. No Social Security no federal income tax was withheld from my paychecks, but they withheld state income tax and they withheld Social Security. That can only be withheld from gross income, which what did we just determine gross income is? Stuff that's in excess of what you're actually paid.
Right.
So people are going to ask the questions like, well, wait a minute, aren't they going to come back and say these numbers don't match? It's like, yeah, they might come back and say that, but guess what? At the end of the day, whatever you say and put on the 1040, that is it.
It's a self-assessment and it's voluntary.
It's a self-assessment. It's voluntary. They can't come back and say, well, this is this. And then there was another question right here. Well, what if they want to audit you? How do you show the numbers? Hey, get it, got it. Guess what? I reserve the right against self-incrimination. That's my Fifth Amendment protected right to do so. So until and unless you can come forward with some admissible evidence, I reserve the right to remain silent. What are they going to do? They can't do anything.
Right. Don't fail to respond to the notices if they send you some, but definitely rebut like anything that they're saying.
Okay. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back and file an amended return for 2021 and 2022. I didn't file anything for 2023 because I didn't have anything withheld, but I'm going to double check that one too.
Okay, so I wanted to add this too, that in the IRS handbook for special agents in section 242.12, subsection 1, it says an individual taxpayer may refuse to exhibit his books and records for examination on the grounds that compelling him to do so might violate his right against self-discrimination under the Fifth Amendment and constitute an illegal search and seizure under the Fourth Amendment. And also in that same section 242.132 subsection 4, if at any stage of an interview the subject indicates that he wishes to exercise his rights to withhold his testimony or records, the special agent will terminate the interview.
This is coming right from the IRS handbook. We're not doing anything that's shady. We're just using their rules as they are written against them because they don't follow their own flipping rules. We've already determined this. All right, let's get through these questions and then we're going to wrap this one up. The first question from Diesel We the People was, good question is how stuck, I'm assuming, is how stuck people or are people drawing Social Security?
So that's the trick, right? Because this is the privilege that they offer you in exchange for robbing you for all 2 years.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know what to tell you. It's something you've already paid into. I think it's considered private property at that point. I would encourage you to just research that more because I don't know the reality of that. I don't receive any government benefits, but for those, I know there are so many who are living off of them. And then there was another question about how do you cancel your Social Security? You can revoke your Social Security. You can tell them that the nexus is over. I'm giving you back your number that you assigned to me when I was born before I even knew about it. And I've been using it to track me my whole life and steal from the harvest of my labor this whole time. Like you can give that back and cancel every bit of nexus, but you're also canceling all the benefits and privileges they give you for being part of that. So if you don't have savings otherwise, then I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So Leslie Liberty brings up, she says, my husband is retired and gets money from his 401k and they take taxes out. What can be sent to my finance guy to stop them from taking future taxes out. So I might go ahead and answer this one, Erica, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Leslie, what I would suggest is you just send a letter, and it's like what Erica said. It's like, hey, by what authority are you allowed to do this? Because this is, the last time I checked, this is a voluntary system, and I don't consent to this. I paid all of this money into this because I didn't want this. So by what authority are you doing this? And just start having that conversation, and and then whatever comes back from that conversation, post it in our affidavits group. Let's put our collective minds together to see what we can do to help, because it really is a tough situation. There's so many different situations that people are in that revolves around this theft, and we want to be able to help everyone as best as we can, but every situation is unique. So I would say start the conversation. Send them a letter. Send them a notice, like what Erica did for her friend with this protest. Wait a minute.
That's what we're always doing with our government agents, right? We're always asking them, by what authority are you asking this for me? I'm more than happy to comply because I'm a rule follower. I'm a law follower. I love the law. But please show me what constitutionally granted authority you have to ask me for that bit.
Yep. And they can't. Okay. One Supreme Court case, people, that you all need to memorize: Hale versus Hinkle, 1948 or 47, 49, something like that. Basically says the individual has no obligation to open his books or papers to anyone from the government because they have a right against self-incrimination. Okay.
Yep.
Looking at the other questions here, we've already answered a couple of them. This one is, where can I find the documents shared in today's video? We're going to figure out how to get these things to you. I might just put them in the Telegram channel. That's probably the easiest method. I am finding that if we put stuff like this out on our website or other places like that, we're painting a big bullseye on our back. And honestly, I've got enough problems. I don't need these people breathing down my neck. So we do want to help. We want to get you the information we can. So we will post these documents in our Telegram chat. And again, you guys are welcome to ask me or ask Erica for them. She'll share them with you. We're happy to do it. So, all right. Then the last question from Get It, Got It is, what if you were near retirement and paid all these years in Social Security for retirement? I think we already answered this one, right? It's Social Security is a privilege. It's a program that you were duped into it. But if you're drawing Social Security, by all means, draw it. You're going to have to pay taxes on it.
Into it.
Erica and I are of the age, and I believe Justice is the same way. I will never see a dime from Social Security, so I don't want to pay any more money into that garbage. Give me a break. I'm not doing it. So anyway.
You make more money by not paying racketeering fees.
Yep. So this is another great individual. Great resource, Joe Bannister. He's an ex-IRS agent for truth. They've tried to shut him up, and he says, I have a First Amendment protected right to share this information, and the courts have agreed with him. He was an IRS investigator for a number of years, and then ultimately he woke up and said, wait a minute, we are screwing people left and right, and I don't feel comfortable doing it. So check it out, agentfortruth.com. Great individual, great show. Great information. So,
and you can find, if you run a search on Telegram or like BitChute, definitely not on Google. You can find lots of videos about him and a lot of other IRS agents basically saying the same thing, and our system's voluntary.
Yep.
So there was one other, Mr. D asked a question. Can you get the money back from Social Security that you put into it? Brent Johnson, in his book, The American Sovereign. I don't know if you guys have this book.
Yep.
If you don't have it, it's a really great resource. There's a letter of revocation from Social Security that is in there. And in it, it says, I hereby demand an immediate and full refund on any private sector remuneration erroneously withheld, since I never entered into any agreement to allow for such withholding knowingly, voluntarily, and intentionally. There is a line in there that says that. I asked him, has anybody ever gotten that back? And he's like, no. Nobody ever gets it back, but it sets the bar for, getting out of that non-contract.
So I actually sent a notice of revocation of an election as a taxpayer. I sent that letter to the IRS, to the main office. I never got anything back. Haven't heard anything since. This was been months ago. So I set it up for like going forward, right? That's where I'm at going forward. So if I were to change employers, if I were to get a different job, and they're going to ask me about that, I'm going to hand them that letter that says, hey, I've actually elected not to be a taxpayer because it's voluntary. And as such, you are not allowed to withhold anything from my withholdings, nor can you deny me employment on the basis of that.
Mhm.
What is that, you guys? What's that big D word?
Discrimination. I
Mhm.
think.
Ooh, discrimination. Yeah, they don't want to discriminate against people like that. So there are things we can do moving forward. Like we said, the information for today's show was, what do you do if they've taken your money and won't give it back to you? I believe we've shown you the way how. I shouldn't say that. We didn't show you how to do anything. All that we've shown you is what I am going to do. If you do it on your own, you're taking on that risk and liability. We assume no risk or liability or anything of the sorts.
Yeah, be the kings and queens of your own lives.
Yes.
If you want to be sovereign, and research yourself and take the consequences of all of your decisions. That's what my friend did. He was brave. Yep. He decided, you know what? Let's just do this. Let's just and he was willing to accept the consequences of it.
Yep.
And he benefited. So.
Yep. So with that, you guys, almost a 2-hour show, but there was so much information. We wanted to get it to you. Again, I'll reiterate, if you're used to listening to us on like a StreamYard, not a StreamYard, but like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever, this is definitely one you're going to want to go back and watch, just because there was so much information that we were reading and following along with. I am happy to share anything that I do with you. If you choose to follow it, you do so of your own accord and free will. But with that being said, you guys, I gotta take off for another work appointment. I gotta take off for that, but I'll give Erica and Justice the final word before we sign off.
Enjoy this beautiful world, people, because there's a lot of beauty out there. So as we stick together, we help one another. Like, James has helped me and so many people so much. Erica, so many people. That's our job here, is just to help one another. So keep on doing it.
Yeah. And just remember, the creation can never exceed its creator. So all of these agencies that are coming after you, they can't do that. We didn't give them the power to come back and attack us. So if it doesn't feel right, then it's not right.
It's not
and
right.
Figure out the reason why, and deep dive more into learning the fundamental law. Learn your constitutions. Always be ready to say to the person who's asking you to do something that you don't want to do, and it doesn't feel right to your spirit, by what authority are you asking me to do this?
Oh, it's under statute, title, blah, 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 blah.
The statutes aren't for us. Remember that. They're not for the people. They're only for the agencies.
Right. And can I just add one more thing? Because, to follow the constitutions are a reiteration of our spiritual gift from God.
God's laws.
It's just stating it on paper to remember you're a child of God and you are free from oppression of another man. We're all equal. No other man has the authority to oppress you and take from you.
Nope.
So even regardless of the Constitution, just stand in that place that I am a living being. God put me here on earth for a reason, and there's no man that has authority over me just because you wrote it on paper or anywhere else. But it is very helpful to put some of these things back in and play their game as we do here. So
yeah, that's what I would say. I mean, if anybody comes up to you and says, well, statute this or Utah code annotated this or blah, 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 my rebuttal to that is fantastic. What constitutional provision is that statute authorized under for we the people? Oh, you're one of those sovereign citizen people. Well, I don't know what you mean by that. If you mean, am I claiming to be a sovereign like the Supreme Court has stated many times before that the people of the United States and citizens are synonymous terms and they are what we call the sovereign people of the United States, then sure, call me what you will.
Yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, you have no authority. Oh, and by the way, if you choose to move forward anyway, I can now hold you personally liable, and I will. So you do so accordingly. I'm just going to stand back and let you do what you're going to do. If you're going to do it, by all means, you're taking on that liability and that risk, because guess what? No statute or code that supersedes our God-given rights is a lawful statute or code.
Absolutely.
Marbury versus Madison, people. It's never been overturned in the almost 230-something years that decision was issued. So with that, I'm going to sign it off, you guys. We love you all. Erica, thank you so much for sharing this information.
Yes, Erica, amazing.
Great show. We love it. Hopefully we can be back next week. We will see. We'll let you guys know. If not, we'll be back soon. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.